There it is.
There it is. Turn that
Give
shit
me some
up.
volume.
Oh,
Tomato,
welcome back
marshmallow,
to
melon.
the
Tomato, marshmallow, melon.
Oh, wrong song, motherfucker. Hey, so we're here to discuss the anniversary of 3.0 of Hampton of 09, 38, 3609, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that today?
Yeah, it was 15 years ago today.
Yeah, and it's crazy that was 15 years ago. It feels like it was almost yesterday, but I don't know. I figured we should take a few minutes, a little bit of time, and relive some of the moments from that year or 3.0 and kind of just celebrate that phase. Are you guys in agreement that 3.0 is finite and that we're in a different era now? Like, can we look at it as an era that ended at the start of the pandemic? I guess Mexico 2020.
A lot of pushback against the 4.0, but I feel like COVID changed every band, having to be off the road, songwriting. Mark from the Disco Biscuits said he practiced more than he ever had in his life during lockdown. So yeah, I think that 3.0 is set in stone as a finite beginning and ending.
Yeah, I would agree with that totally. I think it was a good bookend for it. Like, I think you have a good chapter, so to speak, with 2.0 ending where it did and calling that an end, and 3.0 beginning where it did, and then 3.0 ending where it did or does now is the proper chapter marking, I think, for those. So
it's weird because it gets a lot of hate, but in a lot of ways, I think it's what really, I don't know. It's gonna be weird to say this, but I think the coming back and the rebirth of the band and being able to keep it fresh and generate a future and the optimism and the hope for like the new music is what sets the band apart for me. Right? Like a lot of bands were super hot when they first came out and had a couple of good albums and stuff, but like to still have the original four and still have that hope and everything. So I don't know. I look at 3.0 as a very instrumental era in the band. And
Did they have an album
but not just
at that moment? Did they release an album in 09?
Yeah, it was Joy.
Oh, Joy, right. I forget about that one.
That was how they made the announcement with Time Turns Elastic and all that shit.
I would say too, Tim, to your point, that not just the band, but I think 3.0 was also when the fan base grew exponentially, because them coming back, everybody, after that time off, it was really a lost time. It wasn't like when the Dead ended and Jerry died and you're like, oh my God, like it's over. Like with them, it was just kind of like, it's over. I can't believe it's done. Will they ever come back? And then when they announced the comeback, you're like, oh yeah, you're like, it was this moment of like, hooray, like but now we know what we have, right? Like we're able to go see them again, unlike
second chance, or I guess a third chance, but like really second.
Second. Yeah. And then for all the new people who had, 4 years is a good gap of like getting through height, like people grew and all of a sudden there was more people in that fan base and people that had kids got a little bit older and all that stuff. So all of a sudden you had this other group of people that were like, oh, PHiSH, what is that? I never, you know what I mean? So it was almost like a 1.0 for those people to rediscover them or discover them for the first time. And I think that's when I think the fan base really grew.
And the whole thing with Trey cleaning himself up, it was like a new dawn. It was like the light at the end of the tunnel. You finally had walked out of this long dark, and I think everybody was like, made you think, like with quarantine too, I better embrace this. I better get out there and see them, because we may not have it again.
It may not last, right? It may be a couple years, or they may decide this didn't work or whatever, and they're gone. And I think to that point too, Kev, a sober Trey, it's kind of like a lot of those musicians that have the wild party years, right? And then sort of you realize you can't keep doing that if you expect to keep hitting the road and being a musician. And then suddenly, like, you have a second chance or a revitalization in life. And Trey was like, I mean, look what it's done since then, right? Like, look at the creative juices that just keep flowing in that guy since then. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Year after year, it keeps getting re-inspired and it keeps evolving and growing. I think it was really cool the way they did it too, because there was an injection of new, which has become a hallmark of PHiSH, right? Like always looking forward. But then with Fluffhead and that whole thing, there was still the homage to like the past and the nostalgia. And I think that's the balance, because you can't go full ahead with that and ignore the past, right? But you can't live in the past either. And I think they do a really great job. And it's really, started right from the return, right there in Hampton. They do a great job of balancing that and mixing in the new and the old.
Right. So how were those shows overall? What's your opinion on the 3 shows that they opened the era with?
My personal opinion, and I mean, I'll admit it's been a while since I've listened to those. I think they were received better than they technically were, and I also think they stand out in those first few years. I think by 10, things were a little bit weaker and they were still kind of finding their way and like getting reestablished. But I think the excitement and the momentum and also the practicing going into those shows made them really stand out. And then I think some of the rust became more evident later in '09 and then certainly in 10. I think there was some more rust that was evident, but I think they're kind of on an island as elevated as probably the best shows of that year, I think.
Hmm.
I don't know about that. I mean, '09, they came back pretty strong. That tour, actually, here's the tour shirt from '09. I'm wearing it in celebration today. The Red Rocks run was a decent run. Like that was a fun show. And then they did Indio. I mean, they did the Halloween.
Oh yeah, India was
that
fucking
year.
good too.
And that was a hell of a good time and a good run. And right out the bat, like they're like, let's fucking cover the Stones, like the best double Stones out. Like, let's go with that and do. So I mean, like they kind of came out raring to go that year, and I think it was a good re-entry into the space. And I mean, I saw Red Rocks and Festival 8 that year. I pounded into it. I was so excited to have them back. It was like, let's do this. And the playing I thought was
India was
better
playing.
better when they left off. Let's say that, right? Like the way it ended wasn't great. So to see them come out this way, it was like, oh shit.
They really should have opened with Glide.
What else though besides that '09 year? Because I'm kind of thinking of it through the whole era. Like, what were your favorite memories or highlights from 3.0?
I mean, 2015, right? I mean, from Fairly Well, even though I wasn't officially, that was a hell of a memory, and Trey being a part of that. And then everything that happened after that with him and the band, I think is a huge, I mean, that's like kind of the gold star, I think, of
Do you
the
think that's
3.0
the peak
era.
3.0 year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about peak because I feel like they keep trying to keep, I don't think they fell off after that. And if they did, I think they've re-peaked. But I would say that's sort of like, if you tier things or whatever, I would tier that 2015 as the top tier of the years of 3.0.
I would
we're reliving 3.0.
I would put 29. I would put 2019 up there, and I think in a few years when we go back and listen to 2019, we'll see a lot of the hallmarks of 4.0 showing up there, like they were morphing at that moment. I mean, the Camden show, the Mr. Completely 20 years later, was fantastic. There was the Ruby Waves year at Alpine.
Yeah.
Was that
19?
That's right. Yeah, that was 19. I mean, 19 was great. I think 15, I like that answer, T. I'm not going to take that as my own, but I like that one because I think before that, it wasn't a plateau, but they were at one level. And I think 15 was a big step, right? Yeah. Like that was where there's like 3.0 in a lot of ways is an era of two halves. You had summer 15 and with Fairly Well and Magnaball and Dix and everything. And then you had after that. And it was just kind of like they never looked back. Like 16 was a little bit down, but 17 with the Bakers is my personal highlight, right? 18 was a phenomenal year. 19 was a phenomenal year. And I mean, who knows where they would have kept going right into 20. But and then obviously if you still counted 4.0, I would say 21 and 23 rival any of those years. So like I think 15 was the start of that catalyst, that upward.
That's what I mean. It's kind of like the stock, right? Like it's kind of like beginning in 09 and whatever, and kind of rising. And then 15 was like this epic, like boom. And then since then, it's kind of just been like growth as well. Like it keeps going up. And I think 4.0 started off at a higher mark than 3.0 even started and ended. So you had 4.0 starting from that point, and I think we've only grown from there too.
They were almost they were at a slow gallop when 4.0 started, so it didn't take long to get up to speed there.
Right, you were already kind of running the track. You just had to like kick it into that extra drive and like drop the hammer down a little bit. So yeah.
Well,
Bakers has to take it though. I know I always say that shit, but that is like that's next level shit. That's shit that like nobody, I don't know. I think that's a singularity in their well, that and like Big Cypress. Like those are like singularities that
Right. You have
aren't
to put them in a
approachable from other
separate
bands.
right. You got to
Right.
put them in a separate light.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty sweet.
And look at what happened 15 years after 3.0 started. We finally got the epic fishness of Game Hinge, right? Like that fun, like it took all these years to get to that, and that's what led to it though too. I mean, all of this built to that moment as well, and it just keeps building to the Sphere moment, and like what's after the Sphere and the next festival and that kind of thing. It just kind of keeps building and growing, and there's no stopping them. I mean, like we just said, the creativity's still there, the desire's still there. They're still making albums. They're still I mean, a 45-minute Chalk Dust in year 41 or whatever we're in, like it's insane. So
Oh yeah, that reminds me. I got to listen to that Chalk Dust again before tonight's show. I want to have it fresh in mind when we talk to John. Plus, it's a great one.
9 Eastern tonight.
John Herman's coming on tonight.
Or
I
if
got to
you're
make
watching
the
this
wheel.
later,
We're gonna spin the wheel.
or if you're watching this later, go back and watch tonight's.
Right.
Let Wook Plus live.
Yeah.
So here's the 3.0, and let's hear it for. Yeah. Let's hear it for 5.0 and 6.0 and everything to come down the line.
I don't know. I hope they ride 4.0 for a while and we don't have any more, any more
I
hiccups.
think 4.0 will be it. I don't think we'll ever see a 5.0 unless it's like the theory.
Just don't put that shit out there, man. You're gonna. I know you're gonna say something super fucked up that's just gonna end us on a weird vibe.
When OTL joins,
nobody saw a pandemic coming and making us start 4.0.
Right.
So you never know what outside of just them doing things, what's out there for us. But like, I'm excited for the future. Let's just leave it at that. Like, it's exciting where we are. We're all so lucky to be part of this and enjoying this band. So,
well, let us know in the comments what your favorite memory or moment in 3.0 was as we celebrate this anniversary, and join us tonight.